I like how you immediately there, True, were just like fanning the flames. It's an easy question. Like, fan the flames of controversy.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Spotlight Indie. I'm your host, Frasier Armitage, part-time robot, full-time nerd, author of New Yesterday, Time's Ellipse and A Stitch Between Worlds. And joining me today in place of Holly, my glamorous co-host who is normally here, is someone who is equally as glamorous. It is the wonderful Alex Bradshaw. Alex, how are you doing? You okay?
I am doing so great. I'm so glad that you said I was equally glamorous. I was slightly worried there. I forgot my tiara, so I wasn't sure if I was, not going to be as glamorous as Holly. But I'm glad that I am. But yeah, I'm excited for today.
Well, we're all a little bit disappointed that you forgot your tiara, Alex. Next time, for sure.
If it helps, I'm wearing like a tutu. You just can't see it at the moment. So
perfect. Joining us this week, Alex, I'm sure you're as excited as I am. We have not just one, but two amazing authors. They are the incredible Trudie Skies and Nils. So, True, Nils, hi, welcome. How's it going?
Yeah, not too bad.
I'm hanging in there, still alive.
That's great
to
hear.
Any more than that, he's still alive. That is good. That is good news. We like to hear that.
I'm not sure if it would be more impressive if... Yeah, I'm not sure if it would be more impressive, Nils, if you weren't still alive but still joining us. I think that might be the fact you're still alive and joining us. It's not quite as impressive as it would have been otherwise, I think.
Well, maybe if I join you in the future.
Yeah.
We'll get you back on in 300 years.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
When I finish my next book, 300 years.
Speaking of books, how is your writing going, guys? True. How about you? What's have you got any good news to share about how your projects are coming on at the moment?
No.
Awesome.
Writing is going somewhere off a cliff, basically. But it is going.
Good. That's the main thing, right? It's the fact it happens at all is something to celebrate, right? What about you, Nils?
So for the last 4 years, I've said that I will. I'm almost done with my book, and I will finish it before the end of the year. And this year, I've finished my post-beta draft, or rather, I decided over the weekend that I will not write the planned last chapter. I will finish revisions for this draft, and then I will write the last chapter because I need to know what actually happens in the book before then, in case I remove something or edit something. So hopefully I will have a new book out next year at some point.
That would be amazing. And I love that you say next year. Yeah, because next year just carries on to every year, doesn't it? Like, well, I said it would be next year, and it's going to be next year, so it's all good. Yeah. No, books from each of you next year would be amazing. That'd be great. That's good news right there. What we're going to do as part of this episode is we're just going to focus on some good news in the indie community. JCM Berne, who is a great indie author, great dude. He's churning out books. Suppression, at the time of this recording, Suppression of Powers, which is turn 6 in the Hybrid Helix, comes out tomorrow. So it will be out by the time that this is out there, which is awesome. So congratulations, JCM. That's really, really cool. In terms of Spotlight Indie, great news for Spotlight Indie is that we're very excited about having another event, and all the details will be coming soon. But the main reason for good news that we want to talk to you guys about, True and Nils, is what you're doing for the indie community with a particular website venture that you have entered into together. So, True, do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. We actually started this website of ours a few years ago. It's been around for a while. We launched it under the name unchartedlibrary.com, I believe. That domain is no longer available, which is why we don't have it anymore. But So we kind of came together, me and Nils, because we kind of decided that we wanted to support indie authors more and have a blog dedicated not just to indie books, but also to indie games. So we kind of covered both of those things, indie video games and indie books. And after a little while, we kind of realized that we were maybe stretched a little bit too thin trying to cover them both. So we focused on the books. So we did that for a while. And then I think life kind of got in the way for both of us for a bit. So we kind of like dropped off with the blog. And then we came back. Oh God, when did we come back? Like, it wasn't even that long ago. Like over summer, I think. We came back with the new updated website, which was kind of the old website of all the old content and blogs, but now rebranded under readindiefancy.com, which I thought would be better for SEO and that kind of thing. Just a better brand to kind of show exactly what we are. We're all about reading indie fantasy, but not just fantasy, also sci-fi and horror with speculative elements. We're also fair for the blog as well. But yeah, it's kind of like it's a adventure that we both did, but Nils honestly does most of the reviews, to be honest, because he just reads so much.
I did most of the reviews, but these days I don't know. But you know, life got in the way for everything for a while. But we have the ambition to do more reviews.
We do, yes.
And sometimes we actually do reviews.
And sometimes I actually do features and stuff as well. Just to highlight basically underrated and underappreciated authors, indie authors that perhaps have less ratings on Amazon than others. I set a rule specifically to have ones that had less than 50 reviews on Goodreads. Just books that we read that we felt were underrated or that other people had kind of recommended as underrated. Just highlighting them for fun. So yeah. That's what we want
It's
to try
got to be
and do.
fun, otherwise you run out of energy to do it.
Yeah.
Like if you don't enjoy it, it becomes a chore, and then you start avoid doing it. So it's got to be fun.
I love the new name. It's Uncharted Library is a nice name for it, but I love that now it's more of a commandment as well.
Yeah.
Read indie fantasy. You have to do it. Read indie books. You've got to do it. I like that.
There's still lots of things that I want to do on the website. It's just a question of time, because this year I've been trying to write a book. I've been judging for Spiff Boat X. I've been judging for Sphinx, and it's like, why am I doing all these things? I haven't got the time. I've got a job, man. And it's like, I'm just trying to fit it in as much as I can without completely burning out. But I would like to do more for the site, but it's just me and Nils, so it's like there's a lot there just for the two of us. But we want to try our best to.
And in fairness, it's true who does most of the back end work and the technical stuff and comes up with the ideas. And I write reviews, and that's about it. And I cheer Trudie on once in a while.
We're a good team.
Yeah, I just love that it's your passion for indie storytelling that's kind of made this happen. It's how important is that passion, do you think, as indie creators when it comes to sort of shining a spotlight on other indie authors?
Part of our mission statement that we have on the website somewhere buried is that the reason why we love indie books and also indie games so much is because they're kind of like the future of innovation and creativity and imagination. They're kind of like a step in publishing that trad publishing just doesn't really seem to be that interested in. And like every year there's just more and more amazing indies that are coming out, and it's like that in itself is just really inspiring. Just all of these books that just keep coming out that are just blowing trad out the water in some ways. So I don't see myself losing that passion anytime soon, just because it's everywhere when it's indies involved. It's just constant energy for just great stories out there.
I would say that like the passion, it comes and goes, it's up and down. Like some days it's a drag, and other days I'm burning for it. I just want to do more and more and more, but sometimes it's hard to muster the energy. But I also like to tie in with it's in the indie communities and in the indie scenes where new and exciting things happen. Like if you're in the trad business, like if you're running a publishing house, considering how much money it gets involved with it, you wouldn't want to take unnecessary risks on things that no one's tried before. Whereas if you're an indie, you got your passion fueling you, and sure, there's money involved as well, but you also got your own things. You don't have to convince an entire corporation to invest millions into your passion.
Yeah, you've got the freedom to explore ideas as you want.
You make things up. You just run with it, get an idea, set it on fire, and throw burning candles on it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of my favorite things about the indie space is, as you say, you've got this whole sort of machine that you've got to rev up if you're in sort of the trad space, but you can kind of, indie authors can pick and choose ideas that they're passionate about that might sit in between the lines where, the machine will just not quite gear up for. So yeah, agreed.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like with what you guys have done with the website, by focusing on the underappreciated indies, because the thing about indies is that we're all rooting for each other, but there are some books that come out and you're just like, I wish that more people could get eyes on this. Well, now you've got a place where that book belongs, which is on your website, spotlight shone on it, so I feel like giving that to the indie community is really shining a spotlight on how brilliantly creative it is, and it can be. So we just wanted to say thank you and shine a spotlight on what you're doing with the site and give people the opportunity to find out more about it. So yeah, read indiefantasy.com.
I mean, one reason why we wanted to start the website is to support indies, because that's the one thing that indies need. It's like they need more reviews, they need more support, they need people shouting about their books. And that's what we want to try and do. We want to try to be at least one of those voices.
Marketing and promotion is really difficult. I saw a post on Blue Sky recently. I think it was Danny Finn who said that so many authors spend hundreds of hours writing their book and polishing them and putting them out there and making them the best they can be, and then they are too shy to talk about them.
That's relatable.
I absolutely hate trying to get people to read my book. I just wish someone else would tell them to do it. Maybe we can help someone like that.
Yeah, that's perfect. So what's the process for, like, if somebody reads an amazing indie book and they're like, I wish more people had eyes on this? Do they just contact you through the website, or do they say, hey, have you guys seen this? And then do you guys read it and get involved that way? Or what's the process for, like, if somebody spots a really good indie book and then brings it to your attention, what happens next?
We do have a contact form that people can submit for spotlights or reviews, although we're not always open for reviews because we're kind of swamped reading our own stuff in a way. We've also got our own Discord server that people can join and recommend things, but generally it's kind of like we spot things ourselves that we kind of want to read as well. Because the original idea was that we would create a list of books that we particularly like, as well as other underrated things, and it's just kind of grown from that. So we're always willing to take recommendations. Definitely would not turn away a recommendation.
Yeah, same.
That's very cool.
I try really hard to avoid doing advanced reviews or such, because I have a really hard time finishing a book that I don't enjoy, and I don't want to review a book that I didn't finish. I don't review on request. That's as a goal, as a rule. But I'm happy to take suggestions. I'm happy to look at what people are talking about and seeing what others are excited about and what's new is coming out. And I'm very happy to check things out. I just won't commit to actually finishing anything ever, including my own books.
Sensible. It's very sensible. It's if you don't commit to finishing anything, you're in the perfect position to surprise everybody when you do. Are you well practiced in the art of rolling a d20 dice? True and Neil?
I am an excellent tosser. Sorry, I had to.
Trudie, you tosser.
Well, that joke aside, I was going to say, I think the last time True and I were sort of chatting, she was a hedgehog. They were a hedgehog with a library on your back, I think, at the time.
I did, yes. I am a hedge that carries books on my spines because it's practical.
Yeah. So, yeah, much. I'm not sure how much dice rolling there was, but there was definitely a fount of knowledge on your back at the time.
Yeah.
It was in a like
It's
tabletop role playing game. I could
D&D's
probably,
magic, right? It's just
yeah.
like,
I was going to say, I'll just clarify. It was
Yeah, yeah.
D&D, rather than just wandering down the street.
yeah, although if you could carry a library on your back in real life, why not?
What are those? I can't remember. I don't want. They're not tuk-tuk carts, but the sort of hand carts that people sometimes have as like taxis. Maybe that would make it easier.
Rickshaw.
Rickshaw, yes, thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah, I was like, tuk-tuk is not the word I want. I think that's a little powered vehicle. But yeah, rickshaw, thank you.
Yeah, I feel like we should have had like how many books makes a library is one of the questions in Roll for Insight, but we'll have to add it on for next time. We've got 20 questions. We got 20 things on our dice. So the aim of this game is that you roll the dice and then you get a question, and then it's up to you to answer that question. So if we're all ready to play. I'm going to throw it over to you, True. Would you like, seeing as though you are such an excellent person at tossing dice, would you like to give us our first roll?
Okie doke. So that's 12.
Question number 12. So, pitch a recent book you've loved.
Oh, a recent book that I loved. Does it have to be trad or indie? I suppose, given the theme, I'll have to be an indie book, right?
Could be
You might
anything.
have to lean down the indie route. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
So picture the scene. Steampunk airships, evil imperial empire that's now dead, but the ghosts exist, goblin captain, queer crew. That's what you get with Echoes of the Imperium by Olivia and Nicholas Atwater. Totally
Amazing.
recommended.
I love how you peppered the elements in there, like just each one piquing our interest a little bit more.
It's the goblin captain that makes it.
Yeah, that is literally the capstone on the on the airship.
Yeah. I love it. I'm sold. Yeah. 100%. Goblin Captain. Yes. Nils, would you want to care to roll?
I will roll. I rolled 13.
13. Oh, okay, here you go, Nils. This is a controversial one.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Dragon or wyvern?
Dragon.
There we are, that easy.
That was that's
Why?
really like couldn't you have any better options? Like dragon or like a wyvern isn't even close. Like a dragon or unicorn would have been slightly more interesting.
Aren't dragons and wyverns kind of similar anyway? Just to make this more controversial.
No.
Alex Wonder, he's an expert, surely, on scaly things.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I guess it depends how many legs do you want, really. I suppose that's the classic definition. I like how you immediately there, True, were just like fanning the flames. It's an easy question. Like, fan the flames of controversy.
I've recently been reading a lot of The Wandering Inn, where there's, among other things, there's a dragon and there's a wyvern lord, and they're just not comparable. The wyvern is the big dumb brute who doesn't really get it, but tries really hard and generally fails or make a mess of things, whereas the dragon lord is more like an actual person. It's basically where I'm at the moment as far as dragons versus wyverns go.
Yeah.
Should that be a game?
Yeah, I'll take it. The original sort of genesis of that question is a huge debate that originated at the first Spotlight Indie event, and we just want to keep it going. Alex, do you want to roll for us?
Oh yes, please. 10.
Okay. Maybe this is a question that you can take it in turns to answer. Let's go to you, Alex, first. So, question 10: what has been your most memorable writer-reader interaction?
Oh, is it with me as the writer or me as the reader? I guess maybe open to
It can be either.
Yeah, it's like if I got any readers, I would let you know. But I think actually there was a while ago at the World Fantasy Convention in 2013 was in Brighton, and I happened to be chatting to, I can't remember, I think it was Bella Pagan, that had grabbed her attention and was trying to sort of get her advice on some publishing industry stuff. I think it was Bella Pagan, and Patrick Rothfuss happened to wander by, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's Patrick Rothfuss!" And she's like, "Yeah," and just like poked him in the shoulder. I was like, "Come say hi." So that was a bit of a sort of mind-blowing situation, because it was, I think, like one of those first moments where, oh my god, you can talk to these people and they exist in like the real space. It was a bit of a mind-blowing experience.
That's awesome. And what about you, True? What's your most memorable writer-reader interaction?
Well, as me as a writer, I've made people cry. That was great. So I was told I made someone cry on a train. So that's pretty powerful, actually. In terms of meeting other authors, I'm just trying to think. I haven't really met that many kind of like famous authors. Like, when you go to conventions, you just kind of like, you slide past and be like, oh my god, who is that? Oh my god, it's him. And it's like, but you never actually approach because you're too shy for that kind of thing. But trying to think. Kind of struggling with authors that I've met. I mean, at Worldcon over the summer this year, I got to meet loads of indie authors, and that was actually quite a cool experience. I got to meet P.L. Stuart, who is an indie author, and he is such a lovely man. Like, that was a massive highlight of me getting to meet him for the first time. Hopefully not the first time, like, I get to meet him again in the future. But like, he came all the way from Canada, and that's crazy. That's a long way to come, just in this silly little country. And it's like, just meeting him and meeting other indies, that was actually quite amazing, because you spend years talking to these people online, and then here they are in the flesh. So that was cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. And what about you, Nils?
So I don't have a specific famous author, a writer that I've encountered that that stands out. But I like to talk about an interaction I had with someone who read one of my books, which was someone I'm vaguely acquainted with from work. We were walking from the office homewards, and she told me like, it was about my first novella, my debut, and she told me like, there was this scene at the start, in the beginning, that I didn't quite get what they were going on about there, and then I realized what it was you were doing there, and I thought it was really clever. And I know what scene she was talking about, but I still have no idea what she actually realized I was doing.
I mean, that's the great thing about putting your books out there, isn't it? It's like, oh my god, you were so clever with the scene. I can't believe you like did this, that, and the other. You're like, oh, I definitely meant to do that. Yep, 100%.
Yep,
I am so clever.
Yep.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, you're never gonna forget a reader who makes you feel like you've done something deliberately. That is amazing. That's the best, right?
Yeah,
accidental deliberateness is the best thing.
I was accidentally really clever. I think that's
perfect.
That reminds me of the definition of what heroism is. That to be a hero is to have a critical lack of imagination at the wrong moment.
What about you, Frasier? Your reader-writer experience?
Generally, like, my most memorable experiences are the ones where I do something really ridiculous, and then I can't forget that ridiculous thing that has happened. So it's probably just me gushing over like all of the authors that I've met and being like, "Oh, I think you're amazing. I think you're fantastic," and then going and crying in a like cave for like 2 weeks afterwards. That any chance that I had of them being my friend is just gone. But it's part of life, isn't it? It's part of life. Right. True. This is the start of the speed round. So I'm gonna skip my go on this one, because we just need to head straight into the speed round. So yeah, give us your roll.
14.
14. Oh, what's your favorite spaceship?
Oh no, I don't really read or watch that much sci-fi, so I don't know if I have one. Can I go to video games?
Definitely.
Can I say the Normandy from Mass Effect?
Okay. You don't have to have one.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
Yes.
I do want to read actually more sci-fi. I want to watch more sci-fi, read more sci-fi. I want to do more sci-fi stuff, but I don't really have a favorite other than video games.
That's great. No, that's a solid pick, Drew. But especially for someone who's like not into sci-fi to go for the Normandy, you're going to get all the sci-fi people being like, yes, rocks. Yeah. Nils, it's a speed round. Give us your roll. Yeah.
I also rolled 14. Do I re-roll?
Yeah, we can re-roll.
5.
Hey.
Number 5. What has been the best investment you ever made as a writer, and why is it so beneficial?
Time.
That's a good answer.
I'm thinking of it. I'm trying to think if I actually made a substantial investment in money. But yeah, no, I mean, I could buy software like Scrivener or something for Word, but taking the time, investing in the time, and taking the time to actually finish things and do things right is, I think, the best investment you can make as a writer.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Does that count?
It totally counts. Yeah, 100%. That's awesome. Alex, give us your roll.
6. We're hitting very similar
6.
numbers.
We had 4, 5, 6, and 12 through 15. That's amazing. What's your all-time most loved trope and why?
I think it's a toss-up between like the cavalry charge, and the sort of third act of something, which is baked heavily into the Peter Jackson, charge of the Rohirrim and the Pelennor fields and Theoden and all that, which I suspect is the same for probably a lot of people who saw that at a formative time in their lives, or those sort of master swordsmen. I think is, maybe they were on their own sort of little societal ladder with that. That's also a favorite. I like that.
Yeah, like I've got to throw that up to you guys. Like, Trude, what's yours?
Favorite trope, probably found family. Can't get enough of that in books.
Yes. Nils?
Underdog rises to the challenge. I guess that's a true. You know what I mean.
So what we need is a found family of underdogs who are also master swordsmen who charge in at the final act. Cavalry-like. That would be like the ultimate book, right?
I'm just going to write this down.
Yeah.
With spaceships.
yeah. On
it.
the Normandy?
Yes, with spaceships.
You're probably describing Mass Effect.
Okay, so final round, guys. We're all going to roll. True. You will get to pick from all of our rolls which number you would like to choose for the final question, which we'll throw out to you and Nils. So if you get your dice, we're all going to roll on 3. So 3, 2, 1. Let's roll. So I got a 9.
Okay, I had to re-roll because I got a 6. 18.
I'm going to re-roll as well. I got a 14.
So we got 9.
So we got 9, 18. What have you?
17.
2 and 17. So 9, number 2, number 9, number 17, number 18. True. What's it going to be? Yeah.
I'm going to go for 9.
Number 9. Okie dokie. Good question. This. How do you combat writer burnout? Let's throw it up. And Nils, how do you combat writer burnout?
I don't. I just
You just burn.
stopped writing for a long time and then eventually got back into it again. I tried fighting it. It didn't work out. Yeah. I don't think I ever fully gave up. I tried coming back several times, but it was only for like a few sessions at a time, and then I slipped away again.
I mean, sometimes you do just need a break, to recharge the batteries.
I was going to say, we're giving really good advice here, but yeah, the best advice is probably to take a break.
Totally. And include ice cream in your break, I think, is a very key part of the process for me. Like, I don't know how my books would get finished without ice cream. And chocolate and all the sweet stuff. Like snacks all the way.
Can I change the answer to my previous question about investments? Yeah. I spent so much money on beer and coffee while writing my books. So yeah.
I do actually admire the fact that you take pictures of yourself writing in a pub.
Yeah, that's. I used to live in
motivating.
Ireland. I used to go to the pub every Tuesday or Monday and sit by the fireplace and write with a pint of Guinness, like a proper stereotype. But yeah, that was great.
It's
I mean,
inspiring.
that sounds amazing. To be fair,
Yeah.
That is, but see, we get so much more from like rolling the dice. This is why we like the dice decide our destinies in this game, because it always comes out with something like genius. Perfect. We are going to be talking about there's no such thing as a stupid question, so that's the bit of this segment. So we're going to be troubleshooting some writerly queries and seeing if we can solve some of those for some people. When you started out writing, guys, were there questions that you had about writing and about the indie process?
There were definitely questions. And they were not the right questions. I was entirely focused on completely the wrong thing. I wanted to know more about this. Like I was really keen on perfecting my writing craft, my word flow, and I completely forgot to ask, like, how do I make my story interesting? How do I make anyone care to read my story? Like, stuff like that. Like, I was so focused on getting the words right that I completely forgot about the story.
Sorry.
True. Can you be serious for a moment?
Yeah, I feel. Are you are you okay, True?
They're okay. I apologize, Nils.
I'm sorry. I couldn't help it.
I love it. Nils is bearing his soul, and Drew's just losing it with the cat. I love it.
I don't even have a cat.
So-
I'm sorry. I'm fine. This has never happened ever.
What about you, True? When you started writing, did you have lots of questions as well?
Kinda, I guess. I mean, when I first started out, I started off being published via a small press, which was kind of like a way of getting integrated into like learning about publishing and learning about kind of the indie side of it without the risk, I suppose, of going it alone completely. So I kind of like a lot of what I learned was through them, and as I was kind of with them, I also learned more about the indie side, because at the time I started a separate indie community for indie authors, partly just because there weren't really that many at the time. This was like back in 2016, 17, and then 2019 is when my small press book came out, and there weren't that many indie communities then, so it was kind of like a way of learning more and asking questions myself from that community, which sadly no longer exists, but like that was kind of a good way of just meeting other indies and just learning from them. And that's a good thing about the indie community, is that we're always kind of happy to help each other with questions.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. Being part of something is integral to growing, getting things done. Like, you can't do it all yourself, even if you actually are doing it all yourself. But
Yeah.
being all alone while doing it is taxing.
Yeah, and that's what we want for this to be. We want this to be like a way of a community thing, to be able to people to enjoy, contributing questions, hearing about answers, all this kind of stuff. So if you're writing and you're starting out as a writer, feel free to send us your questions. We'll talk about it with our guests, and we'll get to the bottom of whatever it is you need to know. The question that we're talking about this week: how do you write a good opening line? True. What are your thoughts on that?
I think the key to writing a good opening line is that you write an opening line, and then you write another one and another one, and when you get like through a few drafts, you might actually have something you like. But the key is to just not stress about it. Don't try and get hung up on that opening line right from the start, because I think too many writers will they start a new book and it's like, oh god, I've got to get this first line perfect, because there's this pressure that you have to capture the reader by the first line. And I call I call bullshit on that. Basically,
Yeah.
the first line has to be so vitally important, because when I read books, it's like I barely remember the first line of any book that I ever loved. Like I can go back and I can remember the characters and the plot and maybe quotes I really loved, but the first line, I barely remember the first line of any book. So I don't think it's that vitally important. So therefore, I think getting hung up on that first line isn't that vital, but if you are stuck on the first line or the first page, you can just kind of leave it, come back to it, and it could be a second draft problem or a third draft problem. I think also the best way to do a first line is to try and tie it in with the last line. I like that as a technique, that the last line of your book ties in with the first line somehow, or if you're doing a series, maybe even the end of series last line ties in with the first line or something like that. I kind of like that as a narrative choice. But the way to do that is to obviously write your book, go through all the way to the end, and then you can come back and write the first line, because then you kind of know what that first line is and what it represents for the theme of the book. So basically, don't sweat it.
I feel like that ties in a little bit about what you were saying,
cool.
Nils, with the first when you first start writing, being focused almost too much on that, granular line by line stuff, and then not focusing on the overall plot. So, I just thought that was a nice reflection there. But I don't want to take away from your answer of how do you write a good opening line.
I was too busy dying, obviously, when that happened.
No, I would say that I fully agree with Trude. It's not something you just do. You have to keep trying and eventually you kind of get it sort of right. But at the same time, I think there's so much talk about how important the opening line is, but is it really that important? Like these days, how many people actually go into a bookshop and open the book on the first page and then read the first line and decide based on that whether or not they're going to buy it? Yes, people still go into bookshops and buy books, obviously, although sure, maybe not as many. But these days, so many books are sold online, and they're sold by word of mouth and on the cover and in so many other ways. And at that stage, once you get started with a book, it's the first line isn't going to decide whether or not you request a refund or not, because you already picked up the book. I like many a times, if I'm not sure about a book, I download a sample and I read that, and then I decide, do I want to continue this or not? And I, for the most part, no, every single time, I have no idea what the first line is when I get to the end of the sample. Like the important part is that you need to know where your story begins, and you begin there with the book. Like, where do you want to begin your story? And that's where you start. And then you fairly soon try to make sure you give an impression of what the story is going to be about, what kind of story it's going to be. And the first line can help with that. It probably should help with that. But I think it's also something that you figure out as you go and as you rewrite your story. So you got to keep trying and eventually you get it right.
It would have to be a really terrible first line for someone to put the book back on the shelf after reading the first line. It'd have to be like truly awful. I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah, and I think there are competitions for that kind of stuff.
So. There is,
yeah. That was the next thing that I was going to ask, actually, is that ties in with this is, is there anything that you would say to somebody to maybe encourage them to steer away from something that would make a bad opening? Is there a point that is wrong for you guys to start a story, or that would put you guys off of continuing a book?
One thing that turns me off from a book, not necessarily in the first line, but what turns me off is when the author tries to impress me too much with how cool their book is, how cool their character is, how involved the world building is, instead of just easing me into the story. And when I get into the story, I don't want to be told how awesome this is going to be. I want to experience how awesome it is.
Yeah, I think, like they've been saying, it's nice to get in the first line. It's nice to get those sort of echoes of theme or what's going to happen in the story. so I like what you're saying, True, about it kind of echoing reflecting or whatever the last part of the book. So I think, and important to start where you want to start and not too early. So I think too much extraneous context, like you don't need to know, I don't know, that he was mowing the lawn on setting 3, unless that's somehow important to the story. So yeah, I think it's, if you want to kind of get some sort of detail that you can kind of hone in on and be right, I've got the context now, unless that's a very deliberate choice. I was thinking about that, just thinking of, I think Ender's Game starts with just dialogue without any attribution, but that's quite deliberate in that you're not really supposed to know who's talking and be a bit confusing. So as long as that's a deliberate choice, but it can be very easy to do that without realizing that you've not given the reader enough context, and then you're just diving into showing how cool they are without letting me see it, because you're just describing the coolness.
Yeah, there's definitely a balance between obviously presenting enough information but not drowning them in the world building. As Nils says, you have to kind of like drip feed that in, because if you throw too much stuff at the reader, then they're just going to drown and put the book back, and that'll be that.
Not that I'm necessarily doing it right in my own books, but do what I say, not what I do.
Yeah, I scribe by the same advice. Like, just don't read my books and try and see where I've given advice. Just listen to me. It's fine.
Now, in terms of like good examples of opening lines, because Alex, you said about Ender's Game, where that's a deliberate choice to sort of throw the reader off. That might be a good example of an opening line. Is there like a book that, or like out of all these famous examples that we get given, that really stands out to you guys?
So I kind of just said before that I don't remember any opening lines from all the books that I've loved, so I can't really answer that one because I really can't think of any. But one of my favourite books that I read this year, which is it started off indie and now it's gone trad. It's Blood Over Bright Haven by M.L. Wang. That starts off with a prologue, the dreaded prologue. That's a completely different debate, and it's such a powerful opener. It's like it drew me into the book straight away because it starts off with this character who is trying to cross over a kind of like icy basin to try and get to this mythical magical city that is kind of like the salvation for his tribe, because his tribe are dying off, and there's this magical illness called the blight that kind of attacks, and him and his tribe are rushing across the ice to reach the city. And I won't kind of go any further for spoilers, but it's really, really powerful opening. It sets the scene and the story just perfectly. It's well worth reading.
So I have an opening line. It's from a book I read, but I didn't remember it, the opening line, but rather someone else posted it as an example of a great opening line. And that's why I remember it, because it's quite great. And it's from the first Harry Preston book by Jim Butcher, and the line is something along the lines of, the building was on fire, and it wasn't my fault.
Mm.
And that also sets the mood, and it sets the scene, setting, and then just it gives you a really good impression of what you're in for, or what kind of book you're in for.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. What about you, Alex? Have you got any?
I try and do that thing where you're trying not to think of something. So the only line I've got now echoing in my head is the one from the Dark Tower, the first Dark Tower book, which I'm sure everybody is aware of the first line of that, which is was it the man in black fled across the desert and the gunslinger followed, because it just tells you that's like that could just be the whole book, and obviously the rest of it is just is the rest of it. So that's I'm trying to not think of that, but that's now echoing ever louder in my head as I try and think of something else.
Yeah, like because you've got the classics of like, call me Ishmael, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. You've got these iconic first lines. Do you think that writers can make a mistake in thinking that their first line is in competition with these kinds of things, or do you think that the days of like the iconic opener are kind of something that those have already been done and now we've kind of moved past them? Or do you think that there are still iconic openers yet to come?
Yeah, I think there's still room for more iconic openers. Definitely. If you
Definitely,
can come up with something like that, then go for it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think there's definitely room for more iconic openers. The thing is that they won't be iconic for until several years after they publish, and people have had that time to read them.
Yeah.
And I think that's. I was thinking about like classic books, classics in general, and also in relation to other medium like music. People say there's no good music made anymore, but there's nothing like classics. And they talk about classic rock and the stuff they listened to when they were kids. And sure, there's bound to be classics made every day, or the books that will be classics are released today. We just don't know it yet because there are so many others, and they haven't had time to like get a grip on the world. Yeah,
I think there's a really interesting thing that I was scouting around years ago when I was worried, because openings are basically my kryptonite. I always end up rewriting the opening about 5 million times. But in trying to get better at it, somebody once described the opening line to me as like the promise of the book that you're making to the reader is in the opening. So you want to try and make a promise to the reader of like, this book's going to be worth it. But at the same time, you don't want to promise too much, because otherwise, like you're just instantly giving the reader something that is, overwhelming. So I feel like there's a really good balance when you view the opening as like a promise. There's a good balance that you can strike. Yeah. Do you kind of feel like your job as a writer, once you've figured out what your opening is it then the case of making sure that you deliver on the opening, for the rest of the book? Or are you, when you're editing and everything, do you just like, once you've figured out your opening, do you just park it and think that's it, I'm done with that, I'll come back to that at the end of the book?
So at the moment, I'm currently writing my new standalone. And I wrote a prologue intro, and it's like, yep, this is the prologue that I want to go. And then as I'm writing it, it's like, no, I want to change it to something else. I want to change it to X. And then I keep writing on. It's like, actually, no, it makes sense to change it to Y. So this opening has basically changed like 3 or 4 times since I first wrote the damn thing, and I'm probably sure it's going to change again, because I won't really know what it's going to be until I get to the end of the whole draft, which hopefully will happen sometime this year. But I would say it's a kind of vitally important part, because the opening is the thing that's going to grab the reader. So, I mean, of all the books I've written in the past, the opening is probably the chapter that's had the most editing, the most kind of attention given to it, because naturally it kind of has to. Unless you're writing time travel, in which case that also gets a lot of attention because of so many plot lines and plot holes. But yes.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think I don't write the book to fit the opening that I've already written. That I write the book that it's as it gets written, and then if I need to adapt the opening, I'll do that later. What I came to think about is someone I talked to or I heard about who writes the blurb, the description of the book first, like the thing that goes on the back of the book, writes that first, and then uses that as their theme and the promise, and like that's what they base their book around.
I started doing that actually with my current book. I wrote the blurb first. Oh, it's going to be about these themes. And then as I'm writing the book, it's like, God, it's actually changed completely. It's no longer about these themes. It's now a completely separate thing. So I'm going to have to go back and rewrite the blurb that I did. But it's kind of a useful technique to kind of like pigeonhole what you're trying to write. But then if it does change, it changes, But it is kind of a good way to nail it down.
That's cool. I like that. That's a good tip. I think for anybody who struggles with writing the opening, I think if you can write that, it gives you a place to start, right? So yeah, that's really cool. Thank you. So what we can extrapolate from that about how to write a good opening: don't sweat it. Don't try and do too much with it so that it puts people off. Start in the right place. Don't be afraid to re-edit it and change it, and you'll come up with something iconic, and it's all good. True, Nils, thank you for joining us. Where can people find you online and on your socials?
You can find me on TrudieSkies.com and also on Blue Sky under the same name.
I am most easily found on Blue Sky or on the readingthefantasy.com Discord.
Excellent. And for anybody who's tuning in, read indiefantasy.com. Fantastic website. Spotlights loads of great indie books. Please go check it out. Thank you to True and Niels for joining us. Thank you to Alec. It's been great to have you.
Oh, it's been a treat. I wasn't in the cupboard this time. I was outside.
Yeah, we let you out the cupboard. It's for everybody who's tuning in. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, having a working shower is such a treat.
Because all that I got from that was I'm very with you, and I was like, oh, amazing, yeah. You are very here, Alex,
whenever I am
you
with you,
said
I am
words
very,
in between that I didn't catch.
Yeah. No, I'm very with you whenever I'm with you. I'm always 100%.
So like,
Yeah, I think
like
we
this.
did that, and then they seem
Yeah.
to. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
I mean, people love arsehole characters, right?
They do.